Okay, guys, the highlights from our live trading chat room today in GreatStockPicks.com. It was a pretty dead day, a lot of just sideways choppiness and very low volume. I do not like trading that scenario, so what we try to do is search out things that might have some passion. We did that today in INFA, Informatica. You can see daily candles, kind of zoomed in to make it easier to see, but this thing closed at 43.37 yesterday. And then today opens up down here below 30, okay? So you might have some passion. How do we play this on an intraday basis? This is what it looked like, okay? I didn't do anything in the early going. These are 5-minute candles, so, at least a half hour went by, probably closer to 45 minutes before I found something that I deemed a reliable setup, okay? The early high is here. It gave a nice volume secondary spike, but did not take out the early high of the day. Now, when you have a big gap down, like INFA, oftentimes if after the morning passes and it stays in a relatively some kind of a range, and then an hour into the session or whatever, it starts lighting up the new highs ticker, you can get people piling in with the mentality that I knew that gap down was overdone, and not to mention you get anybody who was short this thing thinking it's rolling over. You start printing new highs for the day, shorts start covering as well. So what happens is you can get a pretty nice move in a very short period of time. All right, and this setup was perfect for me. So I turned on the projector, showed it to everybody. After this pop, remember we did not take out the early highs. I view this red candle here, and this is what I teach, sellers coming in. If these sellers fail, and that's how I play these, if these sellers fail, in other words, the price takes out the high of this candle, I'm long, and my stop's going to go below this candle. So what it means is the sellers coming in here are going to start to cover over this candle. You should get through the high of the last spike from that momentum, which should get you through the high of the day, light up the new highs ticker, get some short covering, longs piling, bottom feeders piling in, and all of that to give you a very quick pop and a nice way to profit. All right. So now you can see it printed one more kind of narrow candle, but my call was at 30.80. Which basically a lot of us entered right here over this candle. And these are 5-minute candles. This doesn't look like much, okay? From here, the entry, to here was probably 6 to 8 to 10 minutes, somewhere in there. And the entry was 30.80, and 6 minutes later, 7 minutes, 8, 10 minutes later, tops, probably about 7 minutes later, we're almost up a buck, 31.75. I always say, never look a gift spike in the mouth. Stupid saying, but I think you get it. Anytime I can get $1 in 5 or 6 minutes, I'm a seller. I don't try to do any math calculations on how much more I can make. I scale out. So I literally scaled out probably 5 different sells into this spike. Okay, and the stop, by the way, was below that red candle. So even though this doesn't look like a big move, you're talking about basically $1 in about 6 or 7 minutes. And a lot of us were celebrating that when it worked out great. Let's go back to this now. I did have one other call in INFA later in the day. Bear with me while I zoom out a little bit. Okay, when it looked like, well, I can't really scoot the chart over because then it lets the gap in there and smashes everything together, but I drew a trend line for everybody. This was the high of the spike that I just showed you that went to 31.75, okay? Again, we sold into the spike. There's that red candle where the sellers failed right here, okay? Then you had a lower high during the lunchtime period and a lower high again. So you basically had a trend line forming. When right about this time of day, around this candle, I said here you had kind of the same scenario. Sellers came in, but if you notice, it's printing higher lows now and lower highs. Good chance this makes another move toward the high of the day. Okay, so over this red candle was my original second idea, 31.10, with a stop below this red candle. Basically the same thing. But when it printed another lower high right here, I went ahead and said you could try to get in a little early and take this right at 31 if it takes out this candle's high. Otherwise, my idea is 31.10. Either way, the stop's going to be about 30.83. So I know we had some members grab this right at 31. Some others took it at 31.10. Either way, you can see the stop didn't get hit. And again, this doesn't look like much because it was such a crazy day in this stock. But even from 31.10 over the next 30 minutes all the way to 31.64, another very nice profitable trade that never got stopped out. And that was it for the day. Those are I took 2 trades and then I took one in TPX after this spike on this pullback, I took, I think, a 9-cent loss somewhere in here. I can't remember where. I was using 2-minute candles for the entry, so it was over this candle, 24.18 or 24.19, 24.09 stop. So about a dime loss because I thought we might have another leg after this kind of volume. Was patient and waited for the pullback, but it just never did get going. So that was it. 3 trades, 2 of them very, very nice. One about a dime loss, and a great way to go into the weekend. All right, I won't babble any further. We will talk to you guys later.